So, FromSoft implemented update 1.13 today, and they decided to buff and nerf a lot of things, of course, mostly for PvP. There were a couple questionable ones, but for the most part, they gave us a lot of really good buffs and changes, particularly to weapons like the Eporia Twin Blade, which I had complained about previously in a video, which just... This weapon is so cool, but before this update, it performed so poorly, the buff took so long to activate, and it just was not worth the time it took to actually make use of it. But now, as of 1.13, I am happy to say that this weapon has received a significant buff. It now only takes 9 hits in total to trigger both power-ups of the move, so both buffs are now significantly easier to actually achieve. You don't have to just keep swinging at your enemy for what feels like an eternity and waste all of your stamina in the process, while also having to face tank damage because you're just never going to be able to get it in the previous version. But with 1.13, they increased the holy damage as well, and they also increased the duration of the buff. Both the first buff and the second buff are significantly longer in how they last, to such an extent to where I believe with certainty that if you wanted, you could in theory just use this in your hotbar and just maintain the buff, because you could still hot swap it and maintain the buff as you see here, making it to where in theory you could just keep this buff going indefinitely. This is exactly what this weapon needed, and I am so happy that it finally got what it deserved, because this weapon is too unique and too difficult to get your hands on to be underperforming like it was previously. So thank you a lot, FromSoft, seriously. But as I mentioned in the beginning, there were other things that got pretty good buffs in this update as well, such as Rain of Fire, which desperately needed this. This did not do any damage before, it was worthless, but now this thing is actually viable. Not only did they increase the bullet spacing to where it can actually hit things more consistently, but it does a lot more damage now, as you can see here. And charged, it can actually do some decent stance damage as well. And this isn't even min-maxed, by the way. You can make this do more. Now, Miquella's Light actually used to do some pretty... It did okay damage, don't get me wrong, but it was bugged because a lot of the things that were meant to boost it just didn't boost it before. But as of 1.13, this thing has received significant buffs to its damage, as you can see here. I'm actually not even using the Dryleaf Seal or using the Circlet of Miquella. The Dryleaf Seal, however, was not given a buff for this incantation because it was never meant to boost this incantation in the first place. They actually recently changed the description of it. It says it boosts Ring of Light incantations, not Miquella incantations. However, they did fix the circlet. It now does boost the power of this incantation. Now this one definitely needed these buffs. This costs 70 faith, and pretty much what it was just a more expensive warming stone. That's pretty much all it was at first, was just a more expensive warming stone. But with 1.13, this incantation has received a significant buff. It now heals you a lot faster than a warming stone. In fact, I think it heals you faster than even the more powerful warming stone, though I'm not sure if the Erdtree Seal actually boosts this incantation or not.